I think there's like two categories of burnout, because you could have the physical burnout and emotional burnout, and it's usually both at the same time.
Hello everyone, welcome to the podcast Evolve. It's your favorite host, Sam, and then this other guy called Lewis. Say hi, Lewis.
Hi. It's weird being on the other side. The spice
It is weird, isn't it? It feels wrong.
Yeah.
But it feels so right at the same
22.
time. Is it 22 or 23?
Episode 22.
Oh, damn. I'm
pretty sure. Yeah.
We've come so far, Lewis. We've come so far. What's the
22
focus
weeks.
of today's episode?
We are talking about burnout. And Sam, Once again, you have predicted the future, because I was ill literally, you know, when we recorded last week's episode after I did the Thai boxing session?
Yep.
Yeah, I was ill till like Tuesday. I'm still a bit ill now, but yeah, you predicted the future. And it happened again.
You feeling hurt? You feeling burnt out?
Yeah, and it's very interesting because we're going to dive straight into this. So, because I was looking up burnout for this episode, and what I've realized potentially is that my default setting is just a constant state of burnout, because looking into all the symptoms and all the causes, I'm ticking every single box.
What are these symptoms and causes?
Every single one. So, causes of burnout: unmanageable workloads, unfair treatment at work, confusing responsibilities, immense pressure, feeling unrecognized or unrewarded, lack of sleep. And the only ones I didn't tick were few supportive or meaningful relationships. But the thing that triggered me the most were traits such as perfectionism, pessimism, and need for control.
Oh.
So this was I was like, I think this has been me for like
this is just signs of working in a crappy company.
Essentially. But the thing is, what is different for you and I is like what you said is like, you know, it's not like we just do a 9 to 6 and then we have, you know, a few hours, because we're trying to do shit afterwards. Like, you'll either be Thai boxing, or you'll be doing uni, or you'll be doing work, or stuff like that. And what I've also done, I think there's like two categories of burnout, because you could have the physical burnout and emotional burnout, and it's usually both at the same time. And for me, and what has caused sort of like, I wouldn't say, I had burnout past few days. I think it was just the peak of burnout, and when I finally recognized it was because I was changing up my diet, changing up my gym routine, dealing with loads of stuff at work, doing stuff outside of work, then chucked in Thai boxing and gym on the same day. And I think that was what tipped me over the edge, because in conjunction with trying new things and doing changes, and I think change is like a key part of what causes burnout at different times. It was doing all that, but also the lack of sleep, which I think is what really fucked me over, because I was having like a constant, I even said this a few episodes ago, like, I really just sort out my sleep, really sort out my sleep. And I still wasn't fixing it. And even though I did like Thai boxing gym on the same day, my sleep was ass that entire week. Like, I don't think I had higher than 6 hours sleep that week. And I think it then just like hit a point. And I was looking into this as well. And like, right, now I know that everything I'm doing is going to cause burnout at some point. What I'm currently doing is, what I've gathered is, I'm just kind of like in a constant burnout cycle. And one of the things like, okay, how can I prevent this, or how can I recover from it? And it's basically like, what is the cause of the burnout? Which we all know what the cause is, but it's work. But it's basically, how can you not react to those causes differently? Or how can you, a lot of it is actually quite mental as well, because it's like your perspective on what's causing the burnout. And how can you prioritize different things in order to basically deal with it? And basically, the three main things that I took away from this is the main three causes of burnout is being overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and you have endless demands. And basically how that also translates into is being quite cynical and negative, feeling hopeless and unmotivated, and having some sense of failure or feeling a sense of failure. And I was like, okay, this is very, very, very real now, because this is us a lot of the time. And
pretty much.
in terms of, I saw this clip and I was like, okay, how you actually solve this is like, okay, you need to kind of basically sort out your priorities. And it's like, okay, are the things that you do reflecting how you want your life to be prioritized? Because for me, it's like, oh, I want to be healthy, I want to exercise, and, you know, I really value my sleep. But I'm like, well, I'm not getting loads of sleep. So that is something that needs to change, because the way I want to live is not currently being reflected. And, you know, I really want to be balanced and, you know, not over stress and overwork, but I'm doing all those things. So I'm thinking now, as a result of reading a lot into this the past 2 days, is how can I basically change some things to avoid another cycle of burnout? Because this has happened quite a few times. Even in the last 22 episodes, I've had peaks and troughs of like burnout. When I was just like, I can't be fucked to do anything. And like, you don't find joy in the stuff that you usually find joy in.
Do you think the caveat to what you were saying earlier around burnout is feeling demotivated, being pessimistic about things and all that? Do you think there's an added factor of wanting to be motivated, wanting to be doing a better job, but just being unable to do it? Because you've also described someone who is just crap at their job and really shouldn't have the job. When you say like they're demotivated, they're pessimistic, you know, that kind of person in the office who's basically sat there and they're just like, can't be asked. No, I don't want to. And like, they consistently are like that. They could have nothing to do, and they'll just, if you give them nothing to do, they'll be happy with that.
Yeah.
You've also kind of described that person with your burnout description.
I think job dissatisfaction and burnout are two different things.
Yeah.
But I think long-term job dissatisfaction can lead to burnout, like for a long term. And the reason why I say that is because with burnout, you can be doing things that you want to do that obviously are difficult, but you want to do, and still experience burnout, right? Whereas job dissatisfaction, you just hate your job. I think what's different between the guy who just hates their job and the person who hates their job but is trying to do something else is they're different characters, because it's easy to describe someone as lazy by the output of their work. But if you actually dissect what the issue is it burnout or is it job dissatisfaction? Those can be two very different things. Because some people actually want to do their job, but because they're burnt out, it leads to the like a few weeks ago, because I had like colleagues who had left and I basically absorbed all their work. I physically felt like this particular day, like I just couldn't bring myself to do this piece of work. And it got like, I was like, because I genuinely, my body just would not let me do it. And this was like the most burnt out I had ever felt, because I was just like, I just can't do it today. And I was just completely just done. I was like, I didn't care on the concert. I was just like, it's just not happening. Whereas if a person's just lazy, they can do it, they just don't want to do it. Whereas like I think burnout, when you physically feel like you can't bring yourself to do this particular task, is like a very key symptom.
I agree with you then. I agree with you, because at first I was just like, it just sounds like he's talking about someone who hates their job. But then, do we like yeah, this is better lighting. I agree with you in that case. And I'm definitely feeling burnt out at work. I'm going through the process. Well, not going through, I've been going through the process of how do I make myself better. And the simplest answer to that is just to take myself away from the situation. But I'm also in that tough spot of I can't, because taking one day off means I've got 3 days worth of work to pick up from when I come back. And everyone and their mother, literally, are telling me like, oh, take a break. Why don't you go on a holiday? Why don't you do this? And it's more frustrating when you're in the situation where you want to take a break. You want to do all these things people are saying, but you can't. And then when you articulate that to someone, they'll go, well, health is more important than work. And I'm just like, well, you're going to pay my bills? You going to pay these telephone bills?
I hear
what's going on here.
I hear what you're saying, and one of the interesting things which I saw as well is because you don't like taking breaks, and I also don't like taking breaks.
Yeah.
But what I come to realize is that we touched on this in an earlier episode. It's like you want to do both because you want to progress the ladder internally and also progress your external ladder.
I want to, before you carry on, I want to caveat, that's not how I feel right now. For the first time ever, I want to take a break. I want to just sit down and do nothing for a week.
Right. So, because I hear you, because I've been in the exact same scenario the past month. And when I literally had like a breakdown, like immediately when I came back from holiday, and I was just like, I just broke down like 5 times today. But then I had this moment where I was like, wait, I don't actually care, because this isn't what I want to be doing for the rest of my life anyway. So does this actually matter? And the thing is like, I always try and think of like a macro picture of, because when you're in it, it seems like the most important thing in the world. And I've said this before, like work has this weird way of like, even though you want to do, things outside of work, like with your business and the podcast and things like that, but when you're in your work, because you still want to be good at what you're doing, even if it's something you don't like, when that thing's going to shit, you still are invested in it. So you need to remind yourself, like, you don't actually give a shit. And there's like this picture, and it's like a world. It's like the world, if this thing doesn't go right, and the world, like, it doesn't actually give a shit. So I like to kind of now, this is something which I've been trying to work on like the past like few weeks, is just step outside of me and actually look at the shit that's going on at work. And I'm actually like, yeah, like they're stressing out and people are complaining to me, but do I actually, deep down, will this thing matter in, X amount of time? And the answer is always no. And Sam, if you go away, right, good. And if it goes to shit, it's like, oh, I have 3 days of work. No, you don't. People will try and tell you have 3 day work, but I've now realized, particularly in my position, because people are leaving, they're giving me the work, I can only do so much, because I now have people in my life, right? I know if I try and take on all these people's problems at work, it's going to make me a worse person, and that's just not acceptable. And I've been in that situation before. So now I go, I'm doing what I can during my working day, and outside of that, I'm doing what I can, and there's only me. This happened, I think it was end of last week, because again, these people had left, everybody's gone on holiday, and I've been in. And there's this person in sales, and he wanted me to get like this report out to their client. Bear in mind, this client already had like a report sent weekly, but they wanted it all flowery and a nice deck and stuff like that, which added no more value to what they already had. Like, they already had all the information, all the insights they already needed. So this salesperson went away for a week, and during that week, it's been the most hectic time. And the salesperson came back, was like, why you do this? I said it was priority and things like that. And I was like, no, you said it was priority. I understand why you think it's important, but for me, dealing with everything else going on, this isn't important. And what I said to you off camera, I was like, we have a skeleton crew at the moment. I don't have the bandwidth to do this. It will get done when it gets done. But I need you to understand, it's not me saying it's not important. I know it's important to you because you only have these 2 clients or whatever to worry about. I'm the only campaign manager in for your whole entire team. So I'm prioritizing getting stuff live and getting money in, not doing a nice flowery deck for your client because you think they might spend with us in Q4. I genuinely said this, and my boss was like, oh, I don't know if we can say like, oh, we don't have the bandwidth. And I was like, but we don't. Our team, I was like, I said to her, I was like, no, I'm not going to spend brain power lying. This is exactly why it hasn't been done. Also, my boss was away. So I was like, look, I'm not spending brain power lying. I'm telling people
it's true.
More important.
No, it's true. You need to be transparent.
So I'm being transparent. And, like,
I mean, you need to do it
with like lying.
You need to do it with professional translations. But yeah, you do need to be transparent. I used to work in a team that did that. I used to work in a team where the guy in charge saw our performance as a direct reflection of him and his capabilities, right? And he was trying to put across to the business that, oh, the team can't do these projects. We can't do these additional requests you're making. But then he also didn't want to admit that it's because we didn't have capacity to do it. Because if he had to admit that we had capacity to do it, it means that technically he hasn't planned properly for eventualities like this. And additionally, the business was basically like, do you want to hire more people? And he was like, for someone in charge, he had terrible social issues. Like, he just didn't like the idea of having more people to look after. He didn't like the idea of having more emotional situations to cover at work. The amount of people in our team to him was like the perfect number. And he didn't want any more, any less. And I remember when redundancies came in straight away, it was like, this is why they want more, because I have to find more people. And we're just there like, we're still up for redundancy, buddy. Like, it's still happening. Anyway, so like, it's that kind of mentality of your boss might see that as a reflection of them in terms of you saying that, oh, we can't handle this task, we can't do that, because from their side, they've got KPIs that they need to hit, and they've got KPIs that they should have planned a year for. They are meant to have covered moments like this, and they get a wider scope of what the company's looking to do. So an example would be, for one of the projects we're doing, we've gone to the team with an ask to say, hey, we're moving these clients over to this side. We want to do it in the quickest, most automated way possible. What are the issues you see with this? And then they'll come back to us and say, oh, the issues we'll see with this is around, oh, we don't have enough manpower to do this. Can we have more hours? We'll sign up for more hours. In some cases, some teams will literally give you yes, no answers. So you have to ask the exact questions, when really that boss has been presented with an opportunity to be innovative with their answer and to like explore further. So if I came to you, Lewis, who just pushes the red and the green button every day, if I came to you and I went, hey, we're trying to find a really quick way to do this process. How can we do this? You'd answer, well, only set me the red button once and all I have to do is press red and we're good, right? And that's fine because you're the doer. All your job is to press buttons. Your boss looks after a whole team that press different colored buttons and they do all these different things. He or she should be able to look at that and go, okay, this is the structure of the team. These are our weak points and all these things. This guy wasn't that great at doing that. The detriment was that we missed clarity, or in some projects I've worked on, we've missed clarity on how much work could come through the door. And we basically sat there and we're just going, crap, this is like 20 times more. And then you have to do like the bandage exercises of, okay, who wants extra hours? Who wants to skip lunch? Don't worry, I'll get pizza Friday and no worry about it, guys. All these things. Like and then like they'll start basically doing little bits and bobs to put Band-Aid over what they see as just small issues. As in like, oh, okay, there's an influx, but it'll go away soon. But then it doesn't. The influx then becomes the staple. But then they've not planned for the year. So the company isn't going to greenlight them on them going through a 3-month HR process. And by the time they need more people, it's too late. Because by the time they hire someone and you've also got to train them to do the jobs, then you're not going to get more people in the seats. And that's basically all like trickle down effects to you, the doer, having to press red and green buttons 20 times as fast as you ever had to, because all that work is coming through. And that's literally what happens on so many instances. Pretty much every company I've worked at, whether it was bar work, whether it was production specialist, wherever it is where I'm at now, I see it everywhere where people don't plan properly. And then at a higher level, you can say, okay, why didn't the boss plan properly? Sometimes execs, I swear to God, it feels like they come out the shower and they have a new idea. And it's like, we're doing this now. And then if your boss is one of those people pleaser kind of people, they're like, yeah, we can do it. Don't worry, I'll get the team to do it. It's like, brother, are you going to change your year plan? Are you going to do anything about this? No. So why are we going to do it? Who said we can do it? Why aren't you telling them the realistic thing? It's not like they're asking you, they're telling you do it and find a way. The other side of this is, if you do the job successfully, regardless of how much stress gets put on you, and you want to look amazing, and then you want to go to your boss and be like, yeah, I handled this big challenge all by myself. I'm a big boy or girl now. Like, I did this. I'm great. All you're basically doing is validating the approach the work is sent to you and the pace at which it comes to you. You basically told them, I can do this. I'm so good. This was easy. So the next time, there shouldn't be any questions around whether you can do a bit more than this. You did 100% on this, and you said you're comfortable. To you, that 100% felt like 60. So why are you crying when we turn it to 110%? To you, that should just feel like 70. That should just feel like a little bit extra. And it just keeps happening. It keeps happening. So in my head, when I'm dealing with all the stress at work, I'm basically sat there going, the worst part about all of this is if I don't do it, I will be dragged in front of a room of people. I'll be told, why did you fail this project? And I'll be penalized at the end of year, which basically means my money ain't going up, which basically means I'm not doing any better. And I get that, okay, I don't want to be there for the rest of my life, which is fine. But realistically, I depend on that wage right now, because what my businesses make is what my businesses turn into profit later on, in terms of as soon as any idea makes money, I'm putting it back in. I'm not earning anything from my ideas right now. So this is the job I earn money from, and I need to keep that money up so I can feed it into my other ideas. So because I'm reliant on that, I want to do a good job. But I'm also very aware that if I do a good job, next quarter, we're doing the same nonsense again. We're back where we started. And that's why I feel stressed out. And I think that's why I feel demotivated. So then I go to my manager and I'm like, yo, these are my problems. And thankfully, there's a guy who's like in charge now, who's basically like, I hear you. And he's basically like doubled the people that are helping me, which is great. The worst part is he's not extended the deadline. So now I've just got way more people to talk to about the same problem, and I've got to train them up to fix the same problem, but I've got to do it at a faster pace. So at first, at least I was doing it. I knew how to do what I was doing, so I can sort it out. But now it's decimated throughout to everyone else. It takes a bit more pressure off me, but now I've got more people coming back and asking me questions. And because other people who are higher up can see that I've got more manpower, their view is like, oh, so you can do more than what we asked you to do before then. Let's double down on that. And I'm back where I started again. And I'm asking for more people. And it's just a recycle. It's just a revolving cycle. What my general rant, Lewis, is that I'm burnt out. I don't see a way out. How do I fix this?
So Sam ticked off all three. He's feeling very overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and he has endless demands.
Yep.
See, burnout. It's real. You know what, Sam? You're not alone, okay? Because
Thank you. Thank you for letting me know that the whole world is screwed.
No, honestly, I looked into the numbers, and 82% of workers are at risk of burnout. And those are the only ones that admit it. I think that number's low, if I'm completely fucking honest with you. And Gen Z and millennials are the worst at it. Because we basically all entered work, and then COVID happened, and then we've come back in, and now we're dealing with a hybrid setup, and people don't know what their expectations are, and bosses don't really know how to manage us. And we're also all trying to progress because we're in the social media raised, and with comparison, we're all told that we can be Stephen Bartlett. So we're all trying to do well and get our money up. And then you have boomers saying, oh no, you can't do X, Y, and Z, or they give us too much. And, you know, we're all trying to get houses, but none of us can buy houses. But you're told, oh, to be successful, you have to be a CEO or have a house and kids by the time you're 25. But the issue is you're 24 and you're still on 25K. So
you're being told dumb stuff like, when I was your age, I bought my first house. I bought my first house as soon as I came out of college. Oh, did you now with the 3K that you got gifted in your bank account? Did you? And respectfully, I get that the whole theory about inflation works both ways, right? I get. So speaking particularly about if you're a business owner, if you're a worker, and you're feeling fed up because you're trying to get up in life, as in buy a house, this probably speaks to you the most. What you might hear from people was, oh, like, why don't you buy a house? Stop renting from your landlord. Why don't blah, blah. And then it might be from an older person who will say something along the lines of, well, when I was your age, I spent 3K. And then our argument is usually, well, there's been inflation since then. Like, things have become more expensive, and the amount we earn has not changed as much as it compared to where it was for you. The response I guess someone could give back to that is that, yeah, but it works backwards. We weren't earning that much money back then, but things might have been cheaper, but we were earning a lot less in terms of the numbers, right? What the real problem is the disparity between how much we earn and how much it costs to buy a house.
Absolutely.
In the past, how much you earn was considerably better than how much it costs to buy property. Now the gap is closed, or in most cases, it's gone the other way. Where some people who live in London, there is no chance in hell in their lifetime in that city they're going to be able to buy property. So they're just stuck. They're stuck renting. And I think the one respite we've got, that helps with the whole burnout idea, or the whole view of people getting burnt out, and you saying 80-something% of people are burnt out. The one respite is being able to work from home and having some comforts, being able to basically craft your own environment to better suit you. The worst part about all of that is the same negative emotions, the same negative attitudes are now scheduled into team meetings. People now time block when they're going to ruin your day with a meeting or with an email. And what happens is you can't basically craft an environment and an experience So at first, when you had to go to the office, when you had a bad day, it was in the office. Your whole brain, everything is associated with that building, that room. Now it's someone's living room, it's someone's studio apartment, so it's where they sleep and eat. Now it's literally, I have an office in my house, but it's in my house. When I'm pissed off from a call and I walk out into the rest of my house, I'm looking at everything else and going, this reminds me of work because this is where I work now. So the one respite we had was being able to work from home, but now our home is our office. It's even worse. So the stress just goes everywhere with us.
It's room association. This is
Yeah.
what I think was messing me up, because at uni, particularly, I know we was touching uni, but like a lot of my work in final year, I went to the library and I got so much work done. Yeah. And the issue is now is my office is my bedroom. Like right next to my desk is my bed. And room association is a real thing. And this is why whenever I moved to next with Rosie, I was like, well, I need an office because I can't sleep where I work because I just feel like I'm in a constant state of stress and I have nowhere to switch off, right? But it's interesting what you were talking about with the salary disparity, because when we did, this was episode 4, so a bit of a throwback. When we were talking about
the number as well.
Yeah, because I schedule all of them, so I know all.
True.
When we're talking about running a business and dating and being in a relationship whilst being on your grind and whatnot, and like type of partner that you should date and things like that, and this will probably trigger some people, but I was speaking to people about this, and in terms of like this is very typical, very stereotypical, but just stick with me, because men in particular are seen by a proportion of women as like, you know, men need to be a provider, and we will view ourselves as providers. Now, the issue is, like, very much back in the day, men could afford to provide solely on their salary. Like, my dad was telling me a good salary back then was like 5K, right? It's 5K salary now, like you go to prison before offering that. Like you actually would. And the issue is when that generation is raised on, typically housewife, stay at home, raise kids, or work part-time, right? You're now in a situation where that generation has raised a generation and have set that as the expectation. The issue is you could genuinely have bought a house whilst working at McDonald's 50 years ago. Like, that was very real. It was very normal. I'm not saying it's the best house, but still a house. There is no way in hell you could do that shit now. But and so when you have that expectation as a man in order to be a provider, the equivalent of what 30K could do for you back then is the equivalent of like what 100K would do now. The issue is 100K now would be able to get you a house, but not in London, but it would be able to do 30 years ago. So when you're raised...
That'll get robbed.
Yeah, exactly. So when you're raised the expectation of, okay, I need to be able to provide, but that benchmark of being able to provide and support another person, if you... Now it's very much like, you know, minimum will both work, bringing 2 households. However, kids as well is a completely different ballgame, right? Because you want to be able to still be able to provide if one of you works part-time to look after kids. So you would significantly have to earn way more money in order to have that expectation that you were raised with as a child. Exactly. Because the salary requirement is gone exponentially higher in order to facilitate that happy wife, happy life, family, home, image, couple of cars, all that sort of stuff. You need a shitload of money to be able to do that. Now, a lot of people are more forward thinking. Again, women as well, like obviously go to work, 2 households is now very normal, right? But it was very normal for, you know, man to come home, breadwinner, that sort of stuff. So in terms of what I'm linking this back to is that burnout is very much can be a mental aspect of how you determine success and how far you are away from that pinpoint. And everybody wants to have a house. Everyone wants to be able to provide and, like, you know, lean on each other and all that sort of stuff. But it's way more difficult because that is a very normal view of what success is. Like, do you have a partner? Do you move in? Do you own property? Do you own this? And it's very much based on ownership. The issue is ownership is very, very expensive. and it's been raised a lot higher, and everything's got way more expensive. So I think how to avoid burnout in that retrospect is like you very much need to come up with your own definition of what success for you looks like, and this is what causes people to stress out all the time, particularly with social media.
I think people lack I was going to say lack inspiration. I think that's actually the right term.
I think people lack realism.
No. I think I think that's a mix between expectations and realism. I think it's depressing when you realize what the real world is, because you're living it. I think when you realize that this is your current situation, this is what you're stuck with, and then you also recognize that this is where you want to go to, and you realize how far away they are from each other. That's where it kind of just goes, why the fuck? Why should I even try? Right?
So would you say it's sort of like acceptance?
I don't think acceptance is the answer. I think acceptance is what's making people feel burnt out, because they're having to embrace where they are in their life right now, and embracing that and being aware that in another universe, in another world, there could be something better. That's where people feel crappy. But that's where I feel crappy about myself sometimes when I think about it, right? But I think realistically, what we lack is the awareness of how to get there, or the awareness of a suitable path to get there. That's what we lack as individuals, because all we tend to see, and I know that's essentially what we're trying to do through these this podcast, right? It's we're trying to like show that journey, and we're going through the rough part of that journey right now. We're going through the stresses and everything, and we're trying to elaborate this, and it'll probably take a year or two, maybe 3, before we get to the point that people start talking about their journey.
Yeah.
And that's all people see. Everyone sees the Stephen Bartlett who can afford to have a podcast, and now he has a podcast, right? Everyone sees Joe Rogan's been there for years, but let it be known, Joe Rogan's been celeb for ages. Yeah, he's been well known for a long time since he started that podcast. A lot of people
start podcast, he was a stand-up comedian.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. A lot of people start telling their story when they've made it. Maybe from their perspective, they haven't made it and they've got further to go. But from their audience's perspective, I'm trying to be you, bro. I'm trying to get to where you are. So I'm watching you thinking, how do I get to that life? And now we're in a day and age when you've got the Andrew Tates and all these people who basically talk about how successful their lives are and the fact that they worked hard and so on and so forth, so on, wherever, right? But what everyone does a terrible job of doing is articulating the nuances of how they got to where they got to. All we get is clickbaits, reels, YouTube shorts, and all these things saying like, this is how you can become rich. Invest in this, do that, quit your job, leave your girlfriend, all this nonsense advice, right? But realistically, what we're not seeing is the little steps, and what we don't have is the attention span to listen to every single little step and to pay attention to every granular detail. It's just, we're in that situation where the story isn't being told accurately enough, and we don't feel motivated to hear the true details of those stories. So we're sat there saying, how do I get to that finish line? And we don't actually know how to consume the information required to do it or provide it.
I hear what you're saying, man. And you know what? It's very interesting that you mentioned success. And in my research, there's a success paradox, because in startups, you have all this pressure to kind of like get things kicked off and, you know, do well and all that sort of stuff. But when you hit that success, but then you have a team, and now you have to care about your team's problems, and then you have to bring in money, and then you have to bring in revenue, and then you have stakeholders. So it's what I said in last week's is that you're always going to have problems. You just have better problems. And there's never going to be that point where, you know, you have your Thanos moment and you sit on the planet and you watch the sunset and you've made it. That's never going to happen. You just have way better problems than you currently do. And the reason why I mentioned acceptance is what's called earlier is because what my dad had said to me in terms of happiness is acceptance of where you are. Because if you're here and you want to go here, for audio listeners, one hand's lower than the other. So when you're here and you want to be here, you think you should be here, but you're currently in this heap of shit and you're not accepted yet. And because your ego can't handle you being here, not being here, that's what's stressing you the fuck out. Because you're like, oh, I should be here by now, and I'm doing this shit, and I did this, 4-year degree and all these internships and MBAs or whatever, and all I have to do is stress about emails, right? It pisses you off. It should piss you off. But the reason why I say acceptance is that I think acceptance can be an antidote to burnout and realism, because you need to understand where you are and have clarity on that in order to then move the needle. There's no, as you know, everyone's manual is different. It's complete different languages. There's us explaining every single little fucking thing that we do. Someone's going to go, oh, great, Lewis and Sam did this, I'm going to do this. Yes, there'll be parts that are relevant, but everyone's path has not been walked on before. Like, there's no two CEOs who have the exact same story. Probably very, very similar. Obviously, our tech CEO started up in a garage. Two completely different fucking things happen, though, right? So, and I think life can't be prescribed in that way, and you're not going to get all the answers, and you're going to have to figure it out yourself. And I think that's what makes a difference between people who finally make it. Because if you ask a lot of CEOs who made it at, a certain age or young, like, they weren't very much fixated on that. They were just focused on the process, and it's just a matter of when. Obviously, it's then a great story for them to tell and be like, this is how I did it at 27. But it's like, that wasn't really your focus at that point, because you're just obsessing over it, as opposed to thinking, oh, I need to do it by this point, and putting those limitations. Because when you think, oh, I need to do this within a year or whatever, you can't think clearly. And one of the things which I picked on is, which definitely shaped my mindset a bit, is that, and this was I think it's on a Goggins podcast, and he said, like, discipline actually requires, like, space. You need to have your mind organized, because if your mind's a mess and you're trying to add discipline on that, it does more harm than good. So you need to understand and have your life organized about, okay, this is when I do this is when I switch off, and I'm prioritizing sleep, so you can actually manage that workload. And it's like a garage, because then all of a sudden you have a bit more space, and then you have capacity and bandwidth to take on those additional things.
That's, from my perspective, that's just doing stuff, right? That's just being able to manage the stuff you've got right now a little bit better. That's still, it's organized chaos if you're disciplined and everything around it, right? The problem is still present, right? The problem that we at this point have realized that, okay, or the point that we've kind of summarized around burnout with our audience, who we naturally assume are people that want to own their own business and do more with their lives, right? Our point that we've reached with them is that, okay, you're here and you want to get to here. And the view that, well, you're here, you want to get to here for the video listeners, because I've realized my hands was out of the shop. We realized that, well, the point we're trying to make is that, okay, people just need to accept that this is where you are at, and sometimes it's okay to be here. But realistically, the problem is that people still want to get to here, and their core values and dreams is to get to here. My take on it is people looking too far ahead. And they're trying to achieve a goal that is out of scope. Just like my hand has been out the shot so many times. You think the goal is here, realistically it's here. You can't see it, right? It's out of shot. What I think we need to get better at, and I remember I recorded a video about this in Evolve 1.0, the first version. I recorded a video about it where it was kind of like, you need to break it down into like a 5-year plan, similar to how you do roadmaps, right? The further away it is, the more obscure it is, and that's fine. All you need to care about is, how would it feel to be in that position? And I think most people know how they want to feel when they get in that position, right? Yeah. Most people want to feel relaxed within themselves. Most people want to feel fulfilled. Most people want to be able to sit on a beach or go on a holiday whenever they want, right? Well, I do. So I assume most people do, because I assume that's a normal point of view to have. And then I think the best way to do it is, okay, well, if that's what I want to do in 6 years, somewhere between then and the next 2 years, what do I need to be doing around that time? Like, do I have a business idea or something I need to be working on that might make that kind of money? Okay, great. Now, if we lock in that, if we anchor that point, that's now a key milestone, but it's still a vague idea, because I don't know how to shape that business idea. Then you bring it closer to, okay, between the next year and then, what do I need to be doing around then? It's like, okay, maybe I should have started a business and I need to be looking to see if someone can help me grow it. Okay, great. And then between now and the next year, as the time scale shrinks, it becomes more clearer what you need to do in the next day, because you then know exactly what you need to do tomorrow. You then know you need to go and Google everything. So as it gets further away, it becomes more obscure. And I think people need to be realistic that that is the case of life. As things go further out, as things are further down the timeline, there are more things that will come and mess with that for you, and you can't predict it. We can't predict what's going to happen in 6 years in our personal lives, because in 6 years' time, we might be in war. It might rain on a certain day, and the car might crash, and butterfly effects. All of a sudden, no more internet in the world. I don't know, right? Anything can happen, but you need to bring in your circle of control into, okay, what do I need to do tomorrow? Okay, and why do I need to do that tomorrow so next week I can benefit from it? And why do I need to do that then next week so next month I bet? And then eventually it becomes like words like logarithmics, where like it grows, it gets bigger and bigger every time. That's the scope people need to be viewing things at, is in chunks rather than. And
I think, I absolutely hear you, man. And the thing is, right, I hate when people ask, oh, what do you want to do in 5 years? Because 5 years ago, I was a completely different person. You change pretty much every 5 years. But I think you need to break it down in terms of, I think, how to simplify it for those who are overwhelmed, don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Mainly is skills and knowledge. And that's the foundation that will carry you for the rest of your life. And it's basically those two kind of like feed like within a circle. Then it's like networking, and it's basically there's like a few different pillars. And this is like in a recent book I read. There is one other aspect of burnout which I do want to touch upon in it, and we'll wrap up this conversation on a lighter note before we do our check-ins, or like our conclusions, whatever. But it's you need to add in more joy. The reason why I say this is because I've noticed, like, the things that I like doing, which would be like, like gaming, watching TV, and like I am doing significantly less of that in my like day to day. I will have days where there's literally been like nothing that I did that I find fun doing, and I think that's like a very much key component. You need to be able to switch off 90 minutes before you go to bed. Is basically what I read today, and you actually need to have that moment of, okay, I'm done for the day. I need to have a little break and like have that wind down time, essentially, because there'll be times where I'll just work, and then I go, okay, bed, and that's really, really fucked to do. And you should make a list. I made a list earlier, and it's like, find a list of things that you find joy in. If you can't think of it right now, what do you do in the past? And when you're burned out, you're like, oh, I don't really give a fuck about TV anymore. Don't give a fuck about watching movies. Or going out with friends, having dinner. Oh, can't be asked. Like that's when you're burnt out. It's like the things that you find joy in, you don't find joy in, and you just can't be asked to do. And that is what I think you need to start to integrate in more in little pieces. Even if you don't find it immediately joyful to begin with, just start adding it in. And it's like, even it's like chatting with your mates and going for dinners, or like engaging socially with other people. One thing which we're both very fortunate in is that we have deep and meaningful relationships. And one of my key points is I'm definitely going to make Rosie, even more so than I do now, is basically like an accountability manager. And and this is exactly what we kind of spoke about before I was editing the short film, and you were like, how are you going to avoid getting burnt out? And I was like, I'm going to make sure Rosie tells me to go to bed and when I'm doing too much. And that's why I got through it without burning out, because she's like, you need to switch off, like, I think you're working a bit too much, and I'm making sure I'm eating okay, and like doing those basic shit. And it's like, who would have thought, like, when you eat well and you have enough sleep and you drink enough water and you have whole nutrient foods, that you actually are doing all right. And one of the things I wanted to add on, particular joy, and it's like, even with like editing, I started editing because I actually found it joyful to do. And obviously there's moments where it's not as joyful because I'm now trying to make a career out of it. And the thing is, it's even like with things like with like going to the gym. It's like, again, it's like, I like going to the gym, but now I have like a metric of like, what I need to do in the gym. And then that can also step out the fun of it. And it's like things like playing piano. It's like, I started it because I actually found it enjoyable, but I then in my head always end up putting like a perfectionist limitation on it, and I'm sapping out the fun out of it myself. So when you do things that are joyful, if it's like a sport or things like that, like Rosie yesterday, for example, that she went to like a netball trials because she wants to play netball. And she was like, I'm nervous. And I was like, remember, you actually just want to do this so you want to play netball again because it's something you enjoy. She was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Because I don't know why we innately just end up putting benchmarks of like what we need to do, even with things that we like. It's different with things like TV and stuff like that. But when it comes to like any sort of sport, if it's like playing music and things like that, we'll always end up putting like this benchmark of, oh, I need to do really well in this, which is great, but it also will sap the fun out of it. So when you're doing the fun thing, make sure you're actually doing it for fun, and you need to remind yourself and actually have fun with it, as opposed to putting some benchmark and fucking it up for yourself and making it feel like work. It's basically what I'm trying to get to.
Let me see if I can get, so can I just show something quickly, if that's all right?
Go on.
Let me see if I can actually get it to work properly. Would that work? Okay, it does work. So I'm going to share my screen, little show and tell.
Okay.
Which monitor? Let's go. Let's go. Okay, today I'm going to present my...
Did you make this?
Yeah, I made this ages ago for another time. Another version of Sam who was motivated to actually do stuff like this made this.
Oh, shit.
And it was basically... this is how I know you didn't watch my podcast when I was doing it solo. This is how I know you didn't watch, because this was in it, Lewis. I made it for that. And I thought you'd be like, oh, I remember this. Terrible friend. Next. Next.
Sorry.
All right. Oh no, my screen. I don't know what's just happened. I ignore all of that.
You clicked on like an extension. Just click X.
Did I?
On that.
Yeah. Can we skip this bit? Because I don't like showing my showing my tabs. Presenter view. Okay. Don't like showing this. I'm so embarrassed.
Right.
Oh.
Go again.
Oh, embarrassing. Oh. It's all going to crap.
Sam, no one is watching right now. This is a recorded. This is a recorded show.
I'm watching it right now. It's all going terrible. I'm watching it. I'm watching it happen. Okay, go. So this one I made. This is something I made earlier.
Oh, the short-term ones isn't popping up on mine.
Is it not? It will do soon. Wait for it.
Okay, wait.
Ta-da.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Perfect.
Very good. All right, I'll let you click. Go on.
So this is something I made for the first version of Evolve, and this particular episode I recorded was actually called Motivation for a New Skill. And when we were talking about burnout, we've been talking about how people essentially don't know how to get to the next level, the next step of where they want to get to. And this diagram basically perfectly articulates what I was trying to describe, right? In our left-hand side here, this general stormy front area, where you can see the big block here, that's your long-term goal. It's big because it's full of big ideas. It's vague. No one really understands it. And then imagine that's like a year's worth of work. This is your midterm goals. 2 splits of 6 months work, right? It's still vague what you need to do in that time, but you don't really get it. But you have like a closer idea than you do for the long term. You have a better visualization in your head of what that feels like, of what that's like to interact with, of what your day-to-day might look like. You have a better visualization. Short-term goal, that's easy. That's clearer to define. Where the bit about realism and burnout, the realism aspect of our conversation comes in when we talk about burnout, is accepting that this will always be your life. A transition from short-term to long-term goals. When you get to the long-term, eventually when you get to this where you've made £1 million, it will feel like crap, because once you validate this process, you get back in the mindset of thinking, I need to do more with my life. I've managed to achieve this in the past. I can do more with my life. You will keep moving the goalpost, and there will always be a long-term goal. There'll always be something that's vague and not satisfying. So you will get to that point, and that's where you need to accept that that is life. Chances are you've got a job that pays well today, and once upon a time, you lived at home and your mum paid all the bills, and all you did was eat breakfast and go to school. You couldn't wait till you had your own house. Now you have your own house. You live in your childhood dream. Okay, but now you want to own your business. But the goalpost will keep moving, and you need to accept that that's life. And then the next point I had was essentially, this was just a general recap of everything, right? But it was about how to prep for this type of things. One is visualizing it, accepting the long-term, short-term goals. Second part, reflection, mapping out where you've come from and making a note of where you are right now. Understand that the next steps is always going to be full of goals, and understand that the next steps is always going to be tricky, and it's going to be filled with moments of depression, moments of dissatisfaction, but you will get there. And before you get to your next goal, do the research, do the prep work. Don't just watch Stephen Bartlett's videos. Don't just go and sit in Joe Rogan. Don't just go and watch an Andrew Huberman podcast. I mean, still do those things, but really look at your life and examine what you're good at, what you're bad at, what you could be better at, and what you're terrible at developing. Really sit there, have someone close to you, look at that evaluation of yourself, and not one of your best mates that kisses your feet all the time. Have someone that actually, like your mum or dad, someone who will chat to you the way you should do, like the small child you are, and tell you what you're good and bad at. Have them look at that self-reflection, those notes, and have them go, okay, you might be struggling with this, and have their feedback in mind when you go, okay, I'm about to tackle these goals. And then once again, lock in the fact that the long-term goal is always vague. And then the next thing I was going to say is about making room for the skill you want to develop or the mindset you want to have. A lot of people have their 9 to 5, and then they've got what you were saying, Lewis, which is a rest period. But usually, if your work is as stressful as it is, and that's why you're looking for a YouTube video about burnout like this, usually you have 9 to 5, and by the time it hits to 5 p.m. or 5:30, you're dead inside, and there's no process space for work. Most people do what I would do, Lewis, which is push yourself to do work between that 5 p.m. and 9 a.m. between going to bed and between waking up for the next day of work. I will be up at 3 o'clock in the morning still working on some idea because I'm desperate to get out of my situation, completely ignoring the fact that I'm not going to be a millionaire overnight by doing that, because I still got to action the idea at some point. I would also do the same in terms of work my whole way through the weekend, expecting a better outcome, just to turn up on Monday, knowing that I've got 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. of the same thing that I'm trying to escape from. What we really should be doing is making room for rest. If you're going to work on a skill, and this is something that I'm going to try and do, if you're going to work on a skill, put a specific time zones that you want to focus on it. So yes, we're doing the podcast. We're doing the podcast. Actually, technically, we've already started the podcast. I'm out of my rest zone right now, but that's fine. I'm doing this for you guys. Sacrifices be made for you. But 5 p.m., 8 p.m. This is vague. It's not written in stone. You can adjust it to your needs. But 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. skill training. That's where I'll either work on an idea. That's either like I'll develop something new, or I'll do my coursework. These are all skills, or these are all steps towards my goal, is basically what I'm saying. On the weekend, split it up, treat that like a work day. 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. working. After 5 p.m. stop, it's rest, because I've got to transition into work day the next day, right? So I've got to have a bit of a break. And then the next point I was going to make is you need to be able to reinforce and tell yourself you're amazing. Tell yourself you've done a good job. You need to be able to get support from people that are close to you. For me, it's people like you, Lewis. We do our regular catch-ups. We do our podcast. I can talk to you about my problems, and you can tell me to stop being a bitch and get over it. That kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
We can do live tracking in terms of, okay, if I have a mentor or someone, I tell them, okay, this is what I'm doing. And then they can come back and give me feedback on all these things. One of the best things I've seen is journaling, using some kind of progress tracker to basically make notes of it. Because one of the most important things I was saying earlier is about, you will forget when you get to where you want to get to in life, that's where you wanted to get to, because you want to get to somewhere else.
Bro, honestly, one of the things which, sorry to interrupt your flow, it's actually really good.
No, that's fine.
But one of the things with journaling, I went back and I went through my old journals.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to do it for a solo episode when you're on your honeymoon, but I went through my old journals, and you forget, like, I was like, did I really write this shit? Because I was stressing about stuff that I'm now no longer stressing about. And I was like, oh, I didn't want to start a business. Oh, I'll do nothing after work and all that sort of stuff. And this was just like a year and a half ago. Like, I was writing about how, I wanted to be in a relationship and, have like this kind of person. And now I have that person. And like, it's really weird because it's now kind of like, oh, damn, like I've actually like achieved these things. And it's like a sickness with like entrepreneurs and ambitious people like yourself. It's like, you're never proud of yourself, or you never acknowledge like the growth until I actually have the evidence of this in like the shit that I was worrying about like circa end of 2022. Like, it's fucking crazy. So yeah, journaling is really important, but not just journaling, but I think reading back later in life, and if you continue journaling, which I recommend, going back and actually reading what you were going through at particular times, you're then able to actually go, oh damn, like we've moved the needle quite a lot since then. So you'll be very surprised. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, you basically just summarized it perfectly in terms of reinforcing yourself. It's that last square right there. It's reminding yourself why you started,
Mm,
and
sure.
also reaching out for a helping hand. A lot of people, and I would say this is a common trait I see within my Black friends, like especially like Nigerian, West African friends. It's a common trait of like everyone wants to be a kingmaker. No one wants to help to become a king. Everyone wants to be able to say, I'm the one who did this for this person. I'm the one that helped someone get there. And I see that trait more commonly in the people I know from Africa. And I don't know why it is a thing, but it's something that will only result in burnout when you're actively trying to make a name for yourself by saying, I helped person X do Y. But then you don't want to accept help from other people as well, because it's almost like a sign of weakness. It's almost like, well, if I let them help me, then that means I didn't do it by myself. And then that's almost like, I can't be proud of how successful I am.
This was so me. This was so me a few years ago. I didn't want to ask people for shit because I was like, no, I have to do it by myself because that's how it has to be done. Oh my God, that used to be me a lot.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's fully an ego thing because you just want to look, I'm on a mountain and I did it with nobody. But the thing is, realistically, everyone has people helping, even if we don't explicitly ask for it. Like, you know, I have my family. Like, you could always identify where you got help along the way. Like, you didn't just birth yourself and then just be like,
no, you didn't.
I taught myself English. I put myself through school. Yeah, I put myself through university and I got myself my first job. Like, no, you have your network. Like, you always have people about. So it was so stupid.
Hear me out. Here's the thing. It's telling because in every rich, successful person's story, in most rich, successful stories, it's all about, this is what I did. This is what I did, blah, blah. Sometimes you hear a snippet of, this is the person that helped me out. And usually that is because that person's on their podcast at the time. They need to give them their flowers, right?
Yeah.
People don't talk enough. I don't know if it's some kind of like Thatcherism effect, especially in the UK. People don't like to talk about how they got help from other people. Everyone wants to be able to say, I did this on my own 2 feet. I did it all by myself. And then if you see someone, and the people that do weaponize the help from others, sometimes it's weaponized incompetence. Not only do they like get help from others, they completely depend on other people doing their jobs for them, so they don't have to do it. And it's always, I see the two extremes more often than I do see people that drift smoothly between the two. The people that, and I think that also alludes to why I feel like I know more successful people. And I know a few successful people compared to the people that are on either side of that spectrum, because the successful people I do know do actively drift in between doing things by themselves, as well as soon as they get to a point, they'll reach out to someone in their circle to help them achieve it. They often would still take credit for that work and not say that they reached out to someone in the circle. And the only reason I know they reach out to someone in the circle is because sometimes I'm the Donnie in the circle that's been asked to do something. Or sometimes I know someone else who's had to do something. Or sometimes we go for a pint and everyone's talking about, oh, this, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? When they go and present it in front of an investor, do you think they're saying this person did it for me? Not really. They're saying my business did this. When they go and stand in front of a room full of 200 students giving their motivational speech about hard work, do you think they're saying, oh, I reached out to my friend and he did this for me? No. It's about how amazing I am. You're looking at me, you want me to be your hero, so I will be your hero today. This all full circle, we're feeling burnt out because we see the end goal. The end goal is people tell the story about how amazing they are. What's wrong is we don't understand the nuances of the steps towards it. People at the top aren't sharing the nuances of the steps towards it because they think it's not interesting to talk about. We need to show that it is an interesting thing to learn about, so people that get to the top see value in sharing that with us.
It's the authenticity.
Exactly, Lewis. It's exactly that. And I think that's what's wrong with the world right now. We're not authentic. And we're setting terrible expectations for ourselves.
And I wanted to, absolutely. I think that's very true, man. One of the things which I wanted to touch on as well, when you mentioned your goals, and the long-term goals, mid-term goals, and short-term goals. I used this diary a few years ago, and it really helped me. And it basically had 5. I think there's 5 different categories of goals that you should have, and I think everybody should set them. Is that you have your physical goals, your financial goals, your mental health goals, goals with your relationships, like love relationships with your friends and family, and career goals. You should basically do exactly what Sam had in that slide for each of those categories, because that pretty much will tell you what your whole life is, and you should probably rank them currently on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being great, 1 being shit. And then you actually know what to break it down in terms of what you need to do in those areas. So for me at a particular time, like physical health was probably like a 3, mental health was probably like a 2. And then like my relationships were probably like a 2, well, like a 2 at a time because they were non-existent. And then career was probably like a 3. And then financial was probably like a 3 as well. So, and then you're actually able to be like, oh, right, okay, well, my lowest, I think, is my relationships. And then, okay, then you prioritize work on that. And then you go, oh, okay, cool. Now it's a 5, because obviously you're a very happy relationship. And now you could actually focus on, okay, I can focus energy to these goals. So once you actually break it down in that way and categorize, as opposed to it being a complete fucking shit show, because obviously you're not just your career, you're not just your money, you're not just your finances, and you're not just your health. All these areas are important, but you could only work on so much of each of those categories at a particular time. So that's something which I just wanted to add on to that, because I think those 5 categories pretty much sum up your entire life.
Yeah, no, 100%. So one thing we said Lewis would do is end an episode with a quick reflection of what we've achieved in the past. And what we're going to do is then set a goal, like we just talked about, for what we're going to do to improve
based off this
our
week.
future. Based off this week. So based off this episode, not just, okay, reflect on the past, not based on this episode, and then we can plan the future based off this episode. What's the plan we were going to do? So how's your week been? Well, how's your week been?
Week's been good. I mean, I've been recovering from being, ill/burnt out. My nutrition's still good. I think for me, it's just the sleep. I definitely need to sort out the sleep. And I'm going to set the goal of getting 7 hours minimum sleep and actually going to bed early. Like, be in bed between the window of like 10:30 to 11. Because at the moment, I'm going to bed tomorrow all the time. So that for me is getting to bed earlier. And that is the goal for the next week. Because once I actually have that solidified as like because I value my sleep, I'm trying to identify that part in particular to value. So as opposed to being like, oh, I'm going to do all this and all this, I'm going to fucking edit a whole movie, I'm just going to focus on my sleep, because that's going to sort everything else out.
Okay.
Yeah, go on. How about you? You need to do the fucking same, actually.
Yeah.
I'm not even funny. Because, in fact, no, it can't be anything else other than sleep, because your sleep is fucked.
My sleep has been...
For your 30th, Sam, I'm getting you a Whoop, because I want you to see the data of how shit you're living.
It's quite bad. It's quite bad. It's terrible. To a point where, okay, let me put it this way. So the last training session, I had a training session last week. And I turned up after a few days off from training, and straight away my coach Lee was just like, "You've been having takeaway, haven't you?" And I was like,
"Oh yeah,
no,
the ankles, yeah,
yeah." Did I tell you about this?
Yeah,
I tell you on the pod already.
I laughed at that. Yeah, the ankles.
Cool. Cankles. Yep. So this week, not this week, I did a 12K run.
Yeah, you did.
I did a 12K run. I can't remember when I did it now, because
Monday.
I slept much.
You did it Monday.
It wasn't Monday. It wasn't Monday. It wasn't Monday.
Was it Tuesday?
Monday.
And then you said, it was Tuesday. And you said a 5K. You said a 12K and a 5K you were going to do. You said doing a 5K tomorrow.
It was a morning. I think it was a Saturday morning.
Either way, you did a 12K.
Either way, I did it. This is how bad it is. My sleep is that terrible. I don't remember what I've done. But anyway, one of these days that has come to pass. And you know what? I'm going to find out exactly what day, because if I don't, then I'll be upset with myself. Cut this bit. Let me do my research. I'm going into the office.
Okay, fine.
I'm going as Vic from Sidemen would say. It wasn't Tuesday. What am I on about? It was Monday. Oh my God, Lewis, you're amazing. It was Monday, but I don't think it was Monday just gone. Oh, it was Monday.
It was Monday. It was a bank holiday.
I did do it on a Monday. You're right. No, you're right. I did do it on a Monday. Yeah, Monday morning. I did it on Monday. You're right, Lewis. I'm sorry. It's because I was meant to go for a 5K at some point as well, and I didn't do that. So it was Monday. So woke up Monday, around 7 or wherever it is o'clock. Went for my run. ended up did 1.5K. Then I pressed my watch or something, did something, cancelled it, so it stopped, and I had to like reset it. Did the remaining 11.5K. It took me a lot longer than it should have to do it, but it's because I literally went from couch to 12K. There's nothing in between. I did exactly what everyone's trying to do with their lives and burning out. I just got up and went, all right, 12K. It's because Lee, in a passing comment, was like, I want you to run. I was like, how far? And he was like, 12K. And sometimes I don't get people joking. So I actually went and did 12K.
No, you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. So then he was basically like, did you actually do it? And he was like, fair play. I didn't actually think you were going to do 12.
Put it this way, Sam. I wouldn't get up and do 12K tomorrow.
Yeah, I probably would now. Now I know I can do it. I'll probably do it again, to be honest with you. But I did that and I felt great, and it made me feel like I can achieve anything in the world. Ever since then, my hips have been hurting. I think my body's shutting down and I just feel really tired. So what I'm going to do is exactly what you've said, Lewis, actually. I've been burnt out and I have been achieving small goals, but I've not been able to reflect on them. I've been achieving small goals, like I'm coming up with a new business idea with Luke, and thankfully he's got the money so I don't have to spend as much time doing it as I would all my other ideas. So I'm not building a new website this time. Someone else will. So I'm working on something new with Luke. And we've been having a lot of positive discussions around that, but I've not been able to enjoy that positive discussion because I'm in a stressful job right now and it's just really annoying me. So I'm going to do what I've said what I've just presented, actually, Lewis. I'm going to focus on taking that working between that 5:30, because I actually finish work at 5:30, not 5 p.m., but working between that 5:30 to 9:30 range, which is later than I'd said, the 8 p.m. range, but that's the time frame I'm going to give myself. And I'm going to focus on resting after that time period. So when it goes 9:30 today, I'm just going to shut down what I'm doing. Just sit back and rest. I'm going to start journaling.
Oh, okay. Mind journals is the only one that I recommend.
Well, it's like an app, right?
It's an actual journal, but it's the only one that I've been consistent with.
I'd have to buy that then.
It's Mind journals. It's like 35 quid, but it's worth it. It's the only one that it's the only one that I use. I tried many different ones, and it's the one that I've stuck with for years because
I'm pretty sure I can get a discount code for that as well.
Yeah, I highly recommend you do the beginning one. There's like a Mind journal, then there's Mind Journal Pro. So Mind journal is the one which is like, it will sometimes have space for you to like write and stuff, but it will also make you like assess your life. So this is what I'm saying in terms of like the categories, and then you work on the categories, and it will help you as a foundation.
This stuff, and a fulfilled sound would be like, I'm going to build that as an app. I don't want to do that. I don't even want to do that. I don't even want to. Don't worry, Lewis. I don't have the motivation.
One of the things I'd say though is make sure you're consistent with it. Is do this before you do something that you always do, like go gym or something like that, and do it in the morning.
Okay.
Like that's what I would say to make you stick with it. And then you can move on to the Mind Journal Pro, which is just like notepads, and then you're able to do that. But the reason why I like it is because it will say like what are your 3 like achievements or like goals or intentions. So you can even say like stuff that you've done like successfully that day or that week, and then you have your 3 points of like gratitude, like what you have to be thankful for. So I've noticed it simplifies it. It's specifically tailored to men, and it's the best and I swear by it. So yeah, I'll definitely do that.
Okay, I would love to find a digital version of it if I can, because
the reason why I say no, and although there are great journal digitally apps,
this isn't sponsored by the way, guys. So Mind Journal, get in touch with us. If you want to give us a discount code.
You look at screens all the fucking time. This actually requires you to switch the fuck off.
No, you're right.
Have your pen and your paper. And just do it, because if you go, oh, I've got a journal, you're going to do it in bed on your phone and go straight to emails. Like, that's fucked. Like, you actually need to take 5 minutes out of your day and be present with how you're actually like feeling and shit. And it gives you some quiet.
I might just sit in the sofa in my office for the first time this year and actually do. I might just sit there for the first time and do something.
No, dude, I think, you need to actually allocate.
No, you're right. I'm going to give that a go, dude. No, I really appreciate it.
That's order it today, or make it a goal for tomorrow.
I'll order it tonight before I switch off. And then, I'm going to give it a go, man. I really am. And I think, so I'm aiming, I say I'm going to start it today. I'm aiming to be consistent with this approach Monday to Thursday. So then I can at least reflect on the next episode that we record, how it's gone. So we need to put a pin in this and remind ourselves. Maybe
I'll remember
WhatsApp or
because I'm
something.
editing it, so I'll remember it.
Perfect. Remind ourselves that this is what we committed to doing.
Yeah,
we'll get it sorted.
Cool.
All right.
I've enjoyed this episode, man. This has been
Same
good.
here, man.
I like the structure. I like that we went straight into it because we're doing what we want.
Yeah.
We need to grow listeners.
Podcast.
It's our
Yeah,
podcast.
People got bored of us chatting nonsense at the start.
Oh, yeah, dude. Yeah. Last week's episode, I don't. You obviously haven't listened yet because it's not out.
Yeah,
Basically,
no.
before we started going on a tangent, I was like, "Yeah, guys, this is for the Patreon, or blow up this episode and I'll release the uncut version." Sam, I cut out about 8 minutes of last week.
No, I'm sorry. Last week's one, they have to pay money to see.
You know what? I think us
said
talking
too
about
much.
revenge, it kind of triggered us. Because,
Yeah, I think.
yeah, and it was really funny. I've got to tell you this. So,
Go on.
because Rosie and I do our check-in,
Yeah,
like weekly, and
that's cute.
I asked her a question which I saw on TikTok, and it's like, what's the thing that you love most about me or found most attractive about me that wasn't physical? And she was like, "You're really kind," and she was like, "You're vengeful, but you're very kind." I was like, she doesn't know what's coming out tomorrow.
No.
Yeah, I was like, it's very funny because you think I'm vengeful now, but like
You need to hear the stories.
circa 2018.
Oh, my God. This will be the Patreon promo when it comes out.
Yeah. Rosie, I'll tell Rosie your cut version. So,
Yeah,
it's
also
the privileges of being with the co-host.
unlocking that story.
Cool. Right, we're gonna wrap up.
Okay.
I've enjoyed this one, man.
Same.
I want to express gratitude. So yeah, thank you, Sam, for the pod. Thank you for hopping on.
Liz.
Yeah, it's been good. I've enjoyed this
I'll give
conversation.
you your flowers too. You've been pretty awesome yourself, Lewis.
Yes, thank you, Sam.
And thank
You're
you
gonna
for
leave a
thanking
gratitude.
me. I deserve
That's
this.
all right. You're like, I deserve to be
I
thanked.
deserve this. Yes.
Cool. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for being here. That's been episode 22.
Nice.
If you guys enjoyed, go on the Instagram. It's the Podcast Evolve.
Yep.
TikTok is also the Podcast Evolve.
Yep.
Leave comments. What topics you want us to discuss? What do you want us to dive deep into? Let us know in comments. thepodcastevolve@gmail.com. Anxious Extrovert, give that a follow. It's on the studios, X and DER. It's on the studios.com, anxiousextrovert.co.uk. And I think that's it. Cool. See you guys next week.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.